Hello, today we talk about which kind of food is safe for your health, and also in the same time which kind of food that can be harmful or hazardous for your health. And to make it easy for you to understand that, we will organize, we'll classify all kind of foods in only two groups. And in the first group, that will range all the foods that may come, all kind of food that may come from plants. In the second group, we'll range all the kind of food that may come from animals. And you know that plants and animals are not the same, and and your food may come from plants or animals. Only two origins, only two sources. That's all kind of foods. And some that we will also give you some arguments and also some idea and some that's some data about the two groups, just to make you understand, not deeply, but at least that the main things that to know for you. And you know that there are a lot of that's what we call them food properties, and these food properties or characteristics are very important to know. That's where you can get a clear idea about what you are eating and what is bad and what is good for your health. And you know that the plant foods, that all the foods that may come from plant or vegetal materials, are characterized or may have some properties that we cannot find in animals. And the animals also may contain a lot of things that we cannot find them in plants. And the difference, that between the two groups, that will make the difference yourself. You know that plants are characterized by that the properties of plants, that things that we find only in plants and we cannot find in animals. That beside proteins and lipids and carbohydrates and so minerals and vitamins, that beside all these compounds, that there are some other properties that just to make the difference between the animals and also the plants. So there are a lot of things that we can find only in plants, and these things are fibers, including total and dietary fibers. That fibers may not exist in animals. That they are they exist only in plants. And the second property and the second factor, that that antioxidants may not exist in animals, but it may exist only in plants. So we cannot find antioxidants in animals. And so that fibers, total fibers and dietary fibers, antioxidants, all types of antioxidants, including flavonoids, polyphenols, and chlorophyll and coumarins, and so a lot of things that we can find them only in plants. And the third thing, that potassium. That potassium and sodium are very important for that, but potassium we are needing and we are requiring, your body may be requiring more potassium than sodium. And that's all things that which are rich in potassium may help your body just to make a lot of things, including that the blood circulation, the hypertension, and a lot of things. That the potassium, that is very important for the body. And more potassium than sodium, that you can never get a problem, but more sodium than potassium, that you get a lot of troubles or health troubles. And potassium is a characteristics of plants, in the characteristics of all foods that may come from plants. And there are less sodium or no sodium in a lot of kinds of plants. That only tiny amounts of sodium may exist in plants. And that the fourth one is that the phytosterols, and we call them phyto, that phyto is plants, and and phytosterols may not exist in animals, it may exist only in plants. That because phyto is plants. And also phytoestrogens, there are a lot of other compounds that are very, 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 very beneficial for the body. What's called in hormones from vegetal materials, called phytoestrogens. And these phytoestrogens also may exist only in plants. That's because phyto is plants, and it might not exist in animals. Now you have at least 5 strong factors and 5 beneficial factors for the body that we cannot find in animal foods, that in meats, in eggs, in milk, and so on. That's so fibers, including dietary and total fibers, and also antioxidants, all kinds of antioxidants, and also potassium, and so phytosterol, phytoestrogen. But there are some other elements, that so some other factors, such as the vitamin B9, that folic acid. That folacin is we find it more in vegetal materials, and more than 90% of the required amount by your body may come from plants. And the main source is legumes, including the beans, so chickpeas, fava beans, and lentils, and so beans, and so peas, and so all these, that's the main source. And there are some green leaves and also some green materials such as asparagus and onion, and so they are rich in garlic. They are rich in folacin that you guys do natural benign now that your body is requiring a natural folic acid as folacin. But what you are taking now from your pharmacy is a synthetic benign. It's not the same molecule that we can get from the plants. It's not the same. And also the benign, and also there are a lot of minerals that we cannot find them in animals. The molybdenum may exist only in vegetal materials, and the main source are legumes and beans. So the chickpeas, fava beans, and lentils are the main source of molybdenum. And molybdenum is an activator, is a cofactor of the enzyme sulfite oxidase, and the sulfite oxidase in our liver might drive out all toxic compounds, free radicals, but without the molybdenum, that your sulfite oxidase may not work. And also there are another mineral, but so that we cannot find them in animals. That's yes, chromium. That is chromium may exist in animals, but in tiny amounts. But the main source is barley, is oat, and is bran, is cereals. We can find them in cereals. That chromium, the GTF, the glucose tolerance factor may exist only in cereals, and that chromium is very important for people practicing some sports, and also it's very important for diabetes people. And that many other things such as a lot of things that we cannot find in animals, but we find them only in plants, and only in foods that may come from plants. So some enzymes and a lot of other factors that we cannot find them in animals. That what we can find in animals and we cannot find in vegetables are only negative, they are only harmful compounds. So that means, we will not talk about proteins, about minerals, and so they exist even in plants, also in plants. But we will talk about things that we cannot find in plants. We find them only in animal, in food that may come from animals, which are saturated fats, fats. Saturated fats, we cannot find them in the plants. And also the cholesterol. Cholesterol may not exist in plants. It may exist only in animals, that because it's a characteristic of warm blood animals. All the warm blood animals are characterized by saturated fats and cholesterol. And also meats and animal products that foods that originate from animals may bring out a lot of toxic compounds such as antibiotics, that because the techniques now used for growing these animals and also for producing eggs and also milk, these new techniques are using antibiotics and also growth factors, which are hormones, and some toxins and parasites and viruses and bacteria and all harmful. That's a microorganism, what we call them, the food-borne diseases may come from animal-sourced foods. And now they may not come from vegetal materials such as Listeria, Staphylococcus, Salmonella, and so Campylobacter, and so a lot of toxic Staphylococci, and a lot of hazardous microorganisms may come from animals, from milk, eggs, and meat. Now I think now you have an idea which is good, which is safe for your body, and which is not safe. And all foods, all foods that may come from plants are safe for your body. There is nothing harmful for your body. But all foods, all the foods that may come from animals can be hazardous, or can be harmful, can harm your body. And you have to pay attention, you have to get a balance between the both two. And that if you go and check in our Holy Quran, that you will find that our God subhanahu wa ta'ala has described a vegetarian diet. So it's not a vegetarian, complete diet, but it's more vegetarian. The diet described in Quran is more vegetarian than the mixed diet. So that in Islam we don't ban the meat and dairy products and eggs, and so we don't ban them. They are not prohibited. That they are allowed, that we can eat them, but they are not basic foods. In our religion, that meats are not a basic food, And if you go and check in Surat Aabass, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surat Aabass, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. And you should see and check, and you should examine, and you should everything to know your food. That you should know your food. This is فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. That our God subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to check and to see and to understand, to examine and to understand everything about the food. where it's come from, and a lot of things, and how it's made, and so how it's produced, and a lot of things. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِ. Ta'am in Arabic is your food, is your diet, and the food you are eating. Now, طعامي, the diet for the man. إِنَّا صَبَّبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا, that we descended on plenty of water, a lot of water. صَبَّبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا, صَبَّبْنَا صَبًّا. فمفعول مطلق in Arabic, that we have too much, plenty of water, a lot of water, and then we descended, and we come down with water, and we watered, so we irrigated, we watered the soil, and we opened the soil. أنتم شققنا الأرض شقا, we opened the soil, and we ground, فأنبتنا فيها حبا, we ground grains. So, and the word grains in Arabic, you know, that may gather, and so may a lot of things, and all kind of grains, that it means vegetal materials, grains. And you know that grains, that there are many groups of grains that you know in your food, that we have cereals are grains, and beans also are grains, and seeds are grains, and there are a lot of other things that we call them grains, like sunflower seeds, like pumpkin seeds, like flax seeds. There's a lot of things that we call them, and seeds, beans, and cereals are included in grains. We call them grains, and this is the basic food, our basic food. إلى طعام الإنسان is the food of man, the diet of man, and this is our basic food. شققنا الأرض فأنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا. عنبا is the grapes, the grape tree. Why grapes is in this verse, that our God subhanahu wa ta'ala described grapes, not other fruits. That because grapes, it's used, we can eat it as fresh fruit. We can dry it, and with resin, and we get the resin that we can eat as dry. And also we can make a lot of things other, like wine, like vinegar, and a lot of things that we can make it from that sort of, and this, you know, that the grapes tree, قَدْبًا, that all things that we can use them as leaves, all the green things that may grow in the soil, that can be used for by man or by animals. That's true. The grass now قَدْبًا زي أنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا وزيتونا ونخلا, and the olive tree, and also the palm tree, and the dates tree. And so why the olives? That because we can eat them as fresh fruits, and we can also extract some oil, the olive oil, that from them. And you know, the olives is a basic food. You know, the olive oil is a basic food. I say it 2 times. And so, and nakhlan, the dates, you know, the dates is fruits, dried fruits, that because it's, you know, all these trees now, they give fruits that they cannot be altered, that cannot be spoiled. So, and we can keep them. So we can dry the raisins, that we can dry the grapes, and we get the raisins that we can keep them for a long time. We can ferment the olives, and we can keep for a long time, and also we can extract some oils, and the grapes we can use it from making some vinegar or some wine. And the wine was not so prohibited that before Islam. So, and you know that عنبا وقضبا وزيتونا وخلا وفاكهة وأبا. فاكهة is fruit, and fruit, you know that in Quran, that فاكهة in Quran means fruits and vegetables too. And you know, you have a complete diet, a balanced diet, a very good diet, a healthy diet. If you include that cereals, beans, and seeds, and also these vegetables and fruits, and then olive oil, and some dried fruits like dates and some raisins, and so, and you have some green leaves also, al-qadb wal-ab, so what we show, not what we harvest it, so, and we eat it as leaves, or as fresh, or as the whole plants, and not as greens, as leaves. And now that this is a complete diet in our Holy Quran. It is described, and it's you know, it's a very simple way to describe it, but it's very easy to understand. But it is very strong if we go deep, and we check with the compounds, with the chemical compounds, and with also what's the properties of food, and so we will find a lot of nice things. Our God subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to know what we are eating. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. He wants what we are eating, and he asked us to check what we are eating, and to see, and to understand, and to examine, and to analyze, and to do everything to this food, and to understand what we are eating. That's very strong. And the same verse is, we can find it, and the same things described in Surat Nahl, also, that we can find ينبت لكم به الزرع والزيتون والنخيل والأعناب ومن كل الثمرات. You know, it's described the same things are described, you know, in many verses and in many times in Quran. You know, the zar'a is grains, that's in cereals and beans and seeds and so. Zar'a include also a lot of other plants. الزرع والزيتونة, olive tree, والنخيلة, palm tree or dates tree, النخيلة والأعناب, so you know, the grape tree. Let's see, فواكه, the fruits including also, you know, that some vegetables are also fruits, like tomatoes is a fruit. And you know, it's a complete diet, it's a safe diet, and also it's a clean diet, it's a healthy diet. And so basically that we should not eat not too much animal foods, that you know that in our religion, in Islam, that we don't ban the meats. And we cannot talk about the vegan or the vegetarian diet, but more vegetarian diet, including fish and including also meat and dairy products, but only natural meats and natural milks from animals who are pastured animals, only milk and meats from pastured animals. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Taha, Kulu wara'u an'amakum. Kulu is eat, Kulu wara'u, eat, and also that you have to pasture your animals. That's because you will eat also from these animals, but you have to pasture them and to get to let them so eat from the grass and from the natural plants and also from the all the plants that animals can eat also, and so that we should grow meats, and we should grow also the animal milks, and so that the production should be as natural as possible, and it should come from only from natural natural animals, natural feeded animals, like meats and eggs, and also some dairy products and milk should be natural, and they are not basic. That we can eat meat, but not every day. Not every day. We can eat meat one time a week or one time per month, and so that some nutritionists, you know, that some in nutrition science we were usually talking about and criticizing the vegetarian diet, that because it's not rich in proteins, that in Islam we doesn't recognize the vegetarian diet, but more vegetal materials than animal materials, that to get a balance. So, and more than 90% should be brought out by the plants, by foods from plants, and 10 to 5% only from animals, including eggs, milks, and also meats. But you know that fish is not classified with meats. Fish is classified between the vegetal and, you know, the plants and the animals. Why? That fish might not contain cholesterol and saturated fat. There is no cholesterol, no saturated fat in fish, and fish might contain oils like the olive oil, like plants. The oils and the omega-3 may exist only in fish and may exist also in the plants. Omega-3 doesn't exist in animals. And you know that fish is rich in vitamin D. It's the main source of the vitamin D. You know, and fish is it's one of those. It's a very good food. It's the best food is fish. It's not meat. It's not milk. It's not anything else. And that fish, it's rich in iodine, in vitamin D, in omega-3, in selenium, in vitamin B12 and B5 and B6. You know, the pantothenic acid and pyridoxine. Also, it's rich in biotin. Also, it's rich in tryptophan, and tryptophan is transformed into serotonin, and serotonin to melatonin. You know, in your body, it's a neurotransmitter. And so that fish is classified between the two. It's not a meat. It's not considered. But fish, you can eat fish every day. Why? That's because it's classified, you know, as properties by on the basis of the properties that's classified with plants, not with animals. It's not. There is nothing. Our food. There is nothing. You know that can. There is not that.